it's not working. Well, isn't this fun? Hello, everybody. Forgive the crazy, weird shenanigans going on. I just got low-key electrocuted by this. This is our Rodecaster, and it's just decided to give up on life. So that's fun. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But yeah, gave me a rude shock, literally. So I'm using my Mac's mic. Hopefully it's okay. And you'll notice that it's just me. Let's be honest, you're only here for me anyway, but there's usually my counterpart, which is Tofafield, and he has the audacity to be late because he was catching a plane somewhere. I have no idea. Who cares? You're here for me anyway. So we have a full show, and Tofu will be joining us at some point. But I thought we would start with some good shenanigans and have a bit of fun, because it's not a day goes by that we don't have some kind of ridiculousness. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm referring to. And that is, let me pull it up for you. This story, the Bureau of Meteorology's new website cost us, the taxpayers, $96 million. So I thought, oh, would you see this? Would you look who's just bloody showed up after all that shenanigans? Anyway, I may as well wait for you to join in now, since you're there. Waiting for...
well, I'm working on being there. It doesn't seem to want to play nice with my headphones. Can you hear me?
I can. It turns out none of us are having a good day with technology.
Yeah.
I just got electrocuted by the Rodecaster.
Well, the irony on a day when we're talking all about $96 million for a website.
Yeah. Let's just do this so we can look at... That's a good look.
Yeah. So let's just say we booked into a hotel that called itself a luxury hotel. And I'm a fan of absolutely none of what they've done to make this place luxury. So yeah, not super.
Where are you?
We're at the Stanford in Sydney.
Oh, you're in Sydney. Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. So that should now be going through my headset. No, we just landed in Sydney, work-related stuff. And it's been an absolute day. Virgin Australia, every time I fly Virgin, I'm like, oh, that's right. Paying the money for Qantas is kind of worth it. Not happy with Virgin. Landed over an hour late. Walked, can you tell? There are absolutely no overhead lights in this room. None whatsoever. There is not a single light in the bedroom part of the ceiling. I'm currently being blazed at by a jolly bedside lamp. It's the only illumination I have.
Can you move it a little bit further away from your face so that you're not blown out? There you go.
All right, if I pointed at the wall, that works better.
Yeah. Otherwise, you look like a ghost.
Well, but I mean, yeah, I've heard that I look best in the dark with the light behind me. So I just thought that might, everyone might be happy about that.
Well, can I just say, tonight has turned into a massive clusterfuck because G has just spent 2 hours on the Eastern Freeway, the East Link, trying to get home because of that major accident. So both lanes closed. He went past the cars and he said they were absolutely totaled. So we wait to hear if they were kids or...
That's not good. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone, and then this has shut itself.
So you said it electrocuted you, like it proper...
Yeah, I got a buzz.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So who needs drugs when you can just mishandle electronic equipment?
I know this means nothing to you, but is Mercury in retrograde? Like, is there something going on? Are the gremlins in the system?
So no, I don't have to leave curlies in my hair. If I just go somewhere humid and I don't put like product in my hair, this is what happens. Carly, you've seen a photo of me with long hair. I will never forget what you said. That will stay with me for the rest of my life. Carly took one look at a photo of me with long hair down to my shoulders, beautiful curls, and she said, "You look like Martin Bryant."
You did.
That was her response to
Yeah.
me with long hair. So I see. The thing is, apologies to those of you that have already heard it. I get full on ringlets, and so when I had hair down to my shoulders when I was a teenager, girls would come up to me and I would get excited thinking, okay, I'm about to get a phone number here. No, they just wanted to know what product I used in my hair. That's it. They just wanted to talk to me about hair care regimes because my hair was apparently that gorgeous, and I would never ever get a phone number.
It's always the way too. Like guys will use one thing for hair, body, face. Women use like 400 products, and yeah, it's not fair. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I do actually use a separate product for my hair. I'm not telling anyone what it is. You got to give me your phone number first.
Okay, well, since you're here, I had every ambition of doing this show on my own, and fucking it's good times.
It's okay. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Sorry.
Hi.
My wife's trying to. Carly says hi. My wife's trying to help out with the lighting situation, but it's livable. We can live with this.
So what are you
So, well, I'm mixing business and pleasure. I was invited by a friend to join him. I just told him to turn my voice down. I'm wearing headphones, so I start shouting naturally. I've been invited by a friend to go with him to the AC/DC concert in Sydney tomorrow. So that's the pleasure part of it, but I'm taking the opportunity to do a couple of business meetings and things while I'm here as well. And yeah, did you hear about the AC/DC concert in Melbourne?
Yes.
So
Yes.
my in-laws are in Hawthorne, and they could hear it, and they could hear it reasonably clearly. They thought someone just down the street from them was having some kind of a late night shindig of a party. So yeah, it's going to be
70-year-olds and retired people just rocking out.
Hey, I'm told that they put on a very, very good show still. So
I'm sure
you
they
know,
did.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. That should be good fun. And then yeah, some business meetings and things. So yeah, I've been running around all over the place. I will literally fly in. So Akadaka will go till who knows when tomorrow night. Then I'm on a plane first thing in the morning to get down to Melbourne to get across to your studio, Carly, where apparently now we don't even have a roadcaster. So that's a problem. Because I can't stop
We'll
off
get
in
it
Albury to
fixed
pick
by
up
then.
mine.
We
Well,
will get it fixed
good
by then.
luck. Good luck. And then to do a recording with you to then drive 4 hours to get home and sleep in my own bed on Wednesday night. This is what I do for you, Carly. This is
It's
what I put
almost
myself
like
through.
moving to Albury was a bad decision.
No, it's almost like you not moving to Albury is a terrible decision.
You will never
You
make
and
that.
and by the way, me being in Albury has nothing to do with me being in Sydney right now. So it kind of doesn't quite work. All right.
All right. Well, should we
Now,
kick it off and start with some tomfoolery? The government.
well, we need to kick it off because I've actually read some things that sent a shiver down my spine, and it's on topic. It's related to the spending side of things. And
Okay.
Jacinta Allen, that lady needs to be stopped because if she gets her way, this is going to get way worse. Anyway,
Well,
what
we've
have you
got some
got?
stuff with the Governor General as well to speak about. So we've got a few things. But the Victorian Governor General has warned that the debt future for Victoria is like beyond repair. Obviously, you guys have seen Jamie Packer's come out calling Dan Andrews human filth.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to keep him up at night, to be honest. I don't think Daniel Andrews cares too much about the opinion of a billionaire. The only billionaires that Daniel Andrews Daniel Andrews cares about are the Chinese ones.
I was about to say that. It's just words out of my mouth.
If it's not a member of Xi Jinping's extended family, then he doesn't care.
Or maybe it's North Korean. I mean, he doesn't discriminate. You know, he doesn't discriminate.
I need to be careful, or else I'm going to get pulled off the air. We're going to leave that one alone. Moving on.
All right, so we'll start with the main story because I actually have so much to say about this. So, I am trying to add something to stage. There we go. All right. So, guys, we're talking about the Bureau of Meteorology's new website has cost the Australian taxpayers $96 million. 96 million for a website. Let that sink in. Let's just pause for effect for a second. Now, I have to say my piece because you know where I'm going with this.
Yep. Yeah, go
Being in
for it.
this industry,
You want a pay rise. That's where you're going. You're going to turn around to me and say that you've underquoted, and you're going to now go from, you're now going to go for like 20 times more. I get it.
I was about to say I am a couple of zeros short on your invoice. There has been an administration fee, and we will be re-invoicing you the extra $90 million.
You will forever be a little bit short on that invoice. I regret to tell you.
Okay, so first things first. I look at this as someone who works in the industry, and I don't pretend to know exactly what the brief was, right? Like none of us know. It was a redesign. And obviously with government stuff, there's layers of security and extra bits and pieces that are required. I understand all that. I would have said a couple of mil would have got you pretty close. Now, as it always is with the government, over budget, over time, too many fingers in the pie. Let's add an extra million. Let's say conservatively, $3 or $4 million could have got you a state-of-the-art, top of the range website. I cannot, in good conscience, fathom or even like create some kind of bizarre world where $96 million is justified for a website. So there's two things. I'm just going to rant because I had this prepared because I'm so worked up by this. So the thing about this website is we're all touching on it because a couple of months ago, the farmers were outraged because of the radar, and rightfully so. However, this overspend and over budget is not an outlier. This is the norm with Australian governments. This is what we've come to know. Particularly in Victoria with our Labor government, but now with the Albanese government. So this isn't surprising. This is what happens with these large bureaucracies, and the failure is never punished. So we've had talk now that the person who has the portfolio that manages this is saying to the boss of the bomb, hey, we need you to go and have a look. Like, that's not accountability. That's just people going, oh, shit, we're going to be grilled over this. We better get some like slick looking PR statement that we can bring to the table. And so the problem is this kind of over expenditure is actually rewarded because the government doesn't like solving its problems. If they solve the problem and they came under budget, they lose next year's budget. So there's no incentive for them to deliver things on time. And so this bureaucracy is being rewarded for their incompetence because that's the justification for more money, more staff, more projects, more oversight, and more consultants. And there's nothing the Labor government loves more than some Collins Street consultants. I mean, I'm jumping over to a quick point. We saw recently Deloitte, their favorite creme de la creme consultancy firm, who charged them $500,000 for a report. And they produced a AI slop piece with fake references. And only because a really astute academic who was paying attention picked it up. No one else thought to check the references. And so I heard that story because I covered that for something I was doing with AI. And I thought to myself, all these different checks, all these different people who would have had to sign off on that report before it even got into the hands of the government, and then all the people in the government who would have read that report, no one anywhere thought to just check to make sure it's okay. So no one checks their homework now. And so there is a guy, you would know this better than I do, but Parkinson, right? And he observed this decades ago. He said, the bureaucracy expands according to the internal logic, not according to actual need. And that's what we're watching. This system is feeding itself whilst it's delivering nothing. And the justification is that we needed a new website, it needed extra security, and you put it all together in this pretty PR package, and then the general public goes, sounds legit. I don't know. I don't work for the government. And so, when you look at this, I was going to bring up a story today before this came out, but there is a French philosopher, and I'm going to butcher this name. I'm going to try and get it out. It is Alexis Tocqueville. Do you know him? It's French. I can't.
Alexis de Tocqueville?
De Tocqueville? Yeah, sure.
Alexis de Tocqueville, very well-known French philosopher and author, probably best known for his piece, his very large and very hard-to-read book on democracy in America. Yes, I think I know who you're talking about.
Let me try this. Alexis de Tocqueville. Did I do it?
Sorry,
Did
I
I
just
now?
needed. I needed more of like a puking kind of sound to come out with that. Yeah, exactly.
I have done nothing but read French philosophers for like the last 18 months, and I cannot say, so do not expect
So
me.
Alexis de Tocqueville will be just fine. Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's the Aussie version. All right. So he has a concept, and you can probably explain this better than me, but he has a concept called soft despotism, right? And that is what this is a symptom of. So what happens is we have this suffocating paternalism where the system is convincing us to not expect anything better. And then you have this general layer of dust of apathy just settling all over Australians. Oh, this is the norm. This is just the way it is. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't fix this. And so that apathy means that these kind of massive failures become normalized. And we see that in Victoria with the big build, with the level crossing removal, with the the metro tunnel, the Westgate tunnel.
Westgate tunnel. Look at Snowy Hydro. That's not Victoria, but still.
This is not an exception. This is the norm in Australia now. Yeah. And because it's the norm, everyone just expects it.
Can I pull a couple of threads together? Because what Alexis de Tocqueville was observing there with that kind of, the dust settling, the malaise that sets in. It's been described a few different ways by different philosophers. And I want to bounce through a few of them just to help, because different people think in different ways. This is a form of the tragedy of the commons, where once everyone's, we're going to have this huge bureaucracy and they're all going to look after this thing. Well, that means that no one's going to look after this thing. There isn't any sort of radical ownership where there is a person whose name and face and ass is on the line. Everyone's trying to be a part of this melee so that they can sidestep if heads are going to roll, they can make sure it's not theirs. Yeah. They need a swamp to swim in. We talk about the swamp. Trump talked about draining the swamp. What is the swamp? The swamp isn't just the bureaucrats. In fact, I would say isn't just the politicians, excuse me. I would say the politicians are the swamp creatures. They are the monsters that move through the swamp. The swamp itself is an entirely separate thing. The swamp is made up of the bureaucrats and especially the consultants. The swamp is the army of people that have learned that they can make more money sucking up to government than they can actually doing an honest day's work. Now, Jorthax makes an interesting point here. He says, just think, the contractor had to win a tender before charging 90 million odd. Which company was it, and how did they get the gig? The whole tendering process for government jobs it's not going to say it's the foundation. Until we fix that, we can't fix the problem. So there's a couple of things here where tenders are incredibly involved things. They require an enormous amount of work just to do a tender. And so therefore, what's happened is, in order to ensure that there's competition, whenever the government puts something out to tender, they have to get at least 3 tenders, right? And sometimes it's even more than that, depending on the project. But a tender is a phenomenally labor-intensive thing. So what they actually had to do was start paying for tenders, because companies started complaining and saying, well, listen, we have to do at least 3 tenders for every job we win. And if we're unlucky, we go on a bad streak, we might have to do 10 or 20 tenders and pay money for all those tenders. And by then we're bankrupt and we're no longer in business and we can't keep going. So they convinced the government to start paying for tenders. But as soon as you're dealing with government, sorry, to finish that point. So now we have companies. There are the companies that get the work, and then there are the small consulting firms that make money by submitting tenders. There is an entire industry now to be the second and third company that submits the tender. You get paid by the government to submit the tender. They make sure that they take a nice slice off the top and pocket a good chunk of cash just out of what they get paid to do the tender. There's no real chance of them winning. They know that. The bureaucrats know that. The politicians know that. Everyone knows that. They're just paying money so that they can tick the box and say, yes, we've got the correct number of tenders. So that's layer number 1. Layer number 2 is that everyone knows that government are incredibly difficult to deal with. And everything, all your timelines blow out. Scope creep is a massive problem. And so you have to load the margins, but you also know that you can load the margins, right? You know that you can just add zeros basically. However, you still have to win the tender. So how do you add zeros but also win the tender at the same time? Well, you make sure that there's going to be cost overruns later. You give them a good price up front, but you build into the contract. This contract assumes and a bunch of things that are going to go wrong. Right? They're not actually going wrong. You knew from the start that was going to happen, but you build it into the contract that this is the price for this. It's like selling a car and saying, oh, sorry, you wanted upholstery on the seats and rubber on the tires. and brake lines. Goodness, okay, wow. Look, now we're going to have to go back and do a change of scope and blah, blah. Like they know, of course they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but this is how it works now. You don't get the tender if you give an honest price up front because it's too high. So the
Yeah.
only way you get the tender is by being one of these sleazy, slimy creatures that plays these sorts of, in my opinion, very corrupt games.
Yeah.
Then at the final stage, you then get all of your consultants that come in on the back of that. And they love projects going wrong, because when do you need a consultant? When everything's going well, or when
No.
everything goes ass up? You need a
Yeah.
consultant when everything goes ass up. They need to get out there and do public consultations. They need to be able to do a what do they call it? A holistic review of the project and come back with recommendations about how the due diligence process can be improved for and this all comes with zeros. And this is outright corruption at this point, because a lot of their reports are meaningless. And I saw this face to face when I spent 3 days traveling around the Murray-Darling Basin with Senator Malcolm Roberts. We flew in a light plane and bounced from airport to airport. We landed, I don't remember the town, but they had a consultation going on to do with the Murray-Darling Basin Authority at the time, and they were consulting with farmers, right? Now, they had basically a closed-door meeting. Senator Roberts was made to feel very unwelcome. They let him in, but he had to push to even get into the room. And they're like, no, we want you to sit at the back. We don't want this to be politicized. We don't want blah, blah, blah. They didn't want visibility is what they didn't want. And they were terrified of me bringing a camera in. They were watching me like a hawk to make sure, like they made it very clear I couldn't walk in there with a camera. And you talk to the farmers, and they'd all been through this process 4 or 5 times. This wasn't the first consultation that had come through town. It's like a circus, a traveling circus comes through town. And all these farmers drive for a few hours to sit in a town hall, listen to some condescending little shit in a suit who's never been outside of the country, never had cow manure on his shoes, tell them how water works and blah, 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 use all the right words, make a few notes in a notebook, and then go back and tell the government whatever they wanted to hear in the first place. But now the government can say that they consulted. Everyone knows that it's a rort. And so I guarantee you, if we can get the receipts on this $96 million lawsuit, it's going to be a lawsuit, this $96 million website, I guarantee you there will be tens upon tens of millions of dollars that have been farmed out. And this is corruption in plain sight. This is how we do corruption in Australia. It's not paper bags full of money. This is what it looks like. That will have been farmed out, tens upon tens of millions of dollars that will have gone to all kinds of reports and consultations and analyses. They would have paid a small fortune to have someone do the color science and someone else to do the font choice and someone else to do the blah, blah, blah. These are just jobs for the boys, pocketing money. This is how corruption works in this country. And this is why we can't have nice things.
Well, yeah, that, and also there's no incentive to change it. I mean, I feel like you and I have talked about this so much, we're exhausting the point. We don't have any incentive for anyone who has good business acumen to get into the public service. There's no reason. Why would you? What we have are the dregs, the bottom of the barrel. I mean, we see this time and time again, and I'm not trying to tar them all with the same brush. There's certainly some good people.
Tar them. Go on. Tar them.
But they're few and far between. When we see this kind of expenditure that has no kind of like safeguards to make sure, like at the 10 million mark, did anyone think to go, hang on a minute, let's just have a look. Where are we going wrong here?
Okay, so this is the thread that needs to be pulled, because somehow those invoices kept being paid. There is such an epic failure of governance. Someone had access to $100 million of taxpayers' money with clearly a lack of oversight and checks and balances to make sure that we even knew where that money was going.
Yeah. And further to that, when this was, I mean, look, I don't work in the government, so forgive me, I don't actually understand the process. But okay, they've decided that they need to upgrade the BOM website. Fine, whatever, sure. I thought it was fine the way it was, but okay, you've decided to do it.
I'll allow it. It has to be done from time to time. So I'm going to let that one go and say, okay, fine, you're going to do the website. No worries.
Okay, so you're doing the website. And so at some point, somewhere in the department, they go, all right, how much do you reckon? Let's allocate this. Or is this not how the government works? They win the tender and they say, oh, look, it's going to be $5 million. Great, no worries. $5 million goes over into the pot. And then once you run out of $5 million, we'll look at it and go, well, hang on a minute, you said 5. Clearly that doesn't happen. Clearly it's like, whatever, I'll just send the invoices, we'll pay him. I want to know who the person is signing the checks. There is someone in the government whose job it is to sign those checks and therefore transfer the money. Every single thing we do now has a paper trail. We know exactly what's happened here. We just need access to it. And you know what's going to happen? There'll be a freedom of information request and everything will be redacted. We'll never get the information. And that's
Yeah.
how this government works. Everything's done behind closed doors. And so the thing that frustrates me is like, we can't do anything about this. This money's gone, right? $96 million in the bin. See you
Yeah.
later. Someone at Accenture got themselves a new Lamborghini. Multiple different people have just bought themselves their third or fourth property. And everyone's having very nice holidays in Europe this year. Well done. Well played, team. This is no different to the NDIS scams, because the problem is, and I'm going to pull a thread here. It's not about rorting the government. It's not about people going, "Ooh, how can we rob them?" It's the fact that everyone else is doing it. Why wouldn't I do it too? This is a breakdown in how we ourselves hold ourselves to account. People are so devoid of any personal accountability that they don't stop to go, hang on a minute, this might be wrong. I know the door's open. I know I could send the check, but I won't because, I don't want to be part of the problem. Of course, they're like, you're doing it. It's no different to what happens in Congress, how they all accrue like tens of millions of dollars. They all know they're in trading. And that's why nothing gets done about it, because they're all benefiting. It's got nothing to do with Liberal, Labor, Democrat, Republican. There is no incentive to change it. And so who suffers? So I love this, because this is always what the lefties will say. Oh, 96 million, that could have funded DV shelters. That could have saved homeless people's issues. That could have done all these beautiful things for the environment. You know what? Sure, you're right, but dig deeper. The government had the money. The government had $100 million, and they chose to do a website. We all know there's a whole host of issues this country is facing at the moment, right? From cost of living to immigration to like polarization of everyone. There are so many things, right? Throw a rock and you'll hit a massive clusterfuck in Australia. But the government went, we're going to take this practically functional website and spend $100 million of taxpayer money to fix it for no other reason than seems like a good idea. We know there's other problems. We know that we can't get money for those other problems. So when you say, it could fund this, it could fund that, you're right. The government had the money. Why would they choose to not spend it on that? Why? Because they can't extort it. They can't funnel it away. They can't.
It's more difficult. Yeah. So there's a great
Sorry, I was just going to say, so when these bleeding hearts vote for Labor and vote for Greens, please understand you are voting for the same people. Just because they're wearing a different team's outfit, they're all on the gravy train. Lydia Thorpe, Senator Payman, bloody Maureen Faruqi, whatever her name is, they're all getting the same gravy train. There is no incentive for any of them to solve these problems. So when you sit there and go, I'm going to vote in the Greens because they really care, they're just funneling that money to a different place. They're all getting it.
Allegedly. There is the appearance of corruption. Look, I'm not going to go so far as to say that any individual particular politician, senator or otherwise, is necessarily on the take. But as a group, we are getting so little value for money, and it is so consistent that we can now say that this is endemic. This is built in. And there are people getting on board this. I remember back when I was working at the warehouse that I talk about from time to time, I left there, I resigned out of there, and I went straight into teaching IT, and which is hilarious because I'm the most useless IT person you will have ever. And I was teaching IT. Hello. Can you still hear me?
Yes. We're having a great night.
All right.
This is awesome.
Sorry, it's Sydney internet up here, And I was teaching IT to 55, 60-year-olds, people that had lost their jobs. This was part of the it was a skills program that was launched under John Howard in a last-ditch effort to try and not lose the 2007 election to Kevin Rudd. And I was unqualified, but I was teaching a certificate 2 in information technology to people that had never turned a computer on, basically. They'd worked a job and that had never required them to have a computer. Then they'd lost that job, and now they had to find a new job because they weren't at retirement age yet. And the new job required them to have a computer skills. So I was the teacher. And I was getting paid good money to stand there and teach. But I know that the guy who organized it, he registered a training organization specifically. So the government announced this program, And he went, oh, that's what the government's going to spend money on? Fantastic. I'm jumping on board. What paperwork do I have to fill out? Oh, I have to become a training organization this time. Okay,
Mhm.
I'll fill out the paperwork. Now I've got a training organization. Which courses are they throwing money at? English as a second language and IT. Great. Do I know anybody that can teach either of those things? Great. You're not qualified. Come over here. We're going to fill out a bunch of paperwork and you're going to be my teacher. Now, I did a good job and my students learned well. But that was not of concern to the person running this thing.
Mm.
And then as soon as Kevin Rudd got in and he shut down the program, he put an end to that. This guy walked away from his registered training organization, and I found out a few months later, you know what business he'd opened up?
Solar or-
Insulation,
Yeah,
insulation installation, pig bats,
Yeah.
right? And he literally, all he was doing, I know this guy. He was running from business to business according to where is the government throwing money today. Now I lost touch with him probably 10 years ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's in consulting now. Like he's just looking at where is the government throwing money, and he's just sucking on that government teat nonstop.
Yeah. I had a story. I'm pretty sure I saved it. Hang on, let me see if I can pull it up. So it was a tradie, and he was I don't think I did save it, but it was a tradie, and he was talking about how the big build in Victoria ruined his business. And the reason being, they had very lucrative pay packets for people to come across. So whether you're a brickie, electrician, everyone was trying to get on these big build sites because it was just a gravy train. And I mean, it's like a stereotype now that all these tradies are driving around in Ford Rangers or Raptors. And he was saying that, the reason that houses aren't getting built, the reason that nothing's getting done, the reason the build quality is falling down so quickly is because of these big government spending projects that basically siphons off all the talent, because of course they're going to go where the pay packet is. You can't begrudge them that. But then what it means is the rest of the state suffers. Now, of course, if there's that kind of lucrative money going to all the tradies, you better believe the people at the top are getting their cut. They're probably getting the most of it. And so, we've talked about this 100 times, the people holding the stop and go signs, that takes 27 people to fix a pothole. And what frustrates me, I mean, the government's going to government, right? Because they don't have to be accountable to anyone. They're meant to be accountable to us. But, cast your mind back to a couple of episodes ago when someone accused me of being emotional, right? Oh, she's too emotional, Topher. You need to do a podcast with someone who's a bit more relaxed. Tell me, would you rather everyone just be really quiet as we descend into this third world shithole? Or would you like a few of us to try? Would you like a few of us to get a little bit rowdy and see if we can summon the troops? Because this attitude of Australians going, oh, we need someone to talk, but you're not the right person. We need the right person. All right, who the fuck's that? That happened to me in COVID. Oh, she's got a failed business. She's the wrong person to talk about small business. Can I just say, who better to talk about the struggles of small business than someone
100%.
whose small business failed,
100%.
right?
Yep.
But this is the mindset of Australians. We resent anyone that's done well, and we resent anyone that has any money or any wealth. So when people who are in business, who are doing well, and there's been multiple examples that we have brought up over the course of the podcast of people saying what is happening in Victoria, what is happening in Australia at large is really, really sinister. Things are beyond repair at this point. We're sliding towards Venezuela. Of course, it's immediately dismissed by everyone in the general public because they go, oh, rich person, I'm not listening to your opinion. Right. So when I see comments like that saying, oh, this woman's too emotional to do this podcast, what do you want? Are you happy to sit on the sidelines and watch this country fade to shit? Because I'm not. I'm a true blue Aussie. I care deeply about this country and I will fight for it so long as I have the breath to do it. But as Topher and I have said, I am not going down with this ship. I will give you 100%. Everything I have, but I will not sit on the sidelines and go, well, I guess that's the way it is. This apathy, this level of just acceptance. Oh, it's always been that way. Why change it? Yeah. Why try?
So Ben is taking his life into his hands here. He's doing the one thing that we all know always works. When you're a man talking to a woman, just tell her to calm down and all your problems will be solved.
Do you know what I would love to do at our live show is have the chili sauce challenge, hot wings?
Yeah.
Oh, make everyone try some hot wings.
That would be interesting. Now, I'm going to share a screen with you because if
Okay.
you thought that everything that you've just said is bad, it's the same topic, same topic. I'm not changing topics here. But hold on to your hats
Am I
because
gonna be bad?
something that I have been warning about for quite some time is it's probably not going to happen immediately, but the fact that it's being talked about now means that it's only a matter of time, in my opinion. That is that Jacinta Allen would like to get her hands on your superannuation funds to help the debt situation with with funding public projects. I'm trying to get this to display properly without that ad there. Get
You
rid of
can't.
ad. Okay. Alarm as Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen calls on super funds to help fund the debt-riddled state's public projects. Now, what's good about this is this has gotten the reaction that it deserves from a lot of people, which is, no, you don't. But what I want to bring out here is I've said this over and over again. I've said it in relation to superannuation. I made the point, I did multiple videos on the taxi license situation, and I have called it out with superannuation specifically. When you do the thing that the government wants you to do, it is a matter of time before they screw you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this when you understand the logic of how government works and what system is, which is what an upcoming book of mine probably coming out next year is going to be about, then you understand this is an inevitability. This is almost like gravity. It's a natural law, right? It cannot be any other way. If you do the thing the government wants you to do, they will screw you eventually. Usually, once enough people are doing the thing they want you to do. They screwed the taxi license owners, and I think it was a good thing to break up the taxi cartel. I think Uber's a good thing, to be clear, but they made a protection racket for the sake of taxi license holders, and then they screwed them. They screwed over everyone that said, yes, okay, fine, we'll install solar. They gave them the feed-in tariffs and everything, and then as soon as there were enough of them, and they said, right, we got what we wanted out of you, they changed the rules and they screwed everybody. I've got a video coming up about that. A neighbor of mine spent the money on the solar panels, and then because he was now a solar person, they was feeding into the grid, they changed his plan and his bill went up. So then he got himself batteries and he connected it up to a virtual power plant thing. And then they said, oh, now you're in this category. They changed his plan again and his daily rate doubled. So he has to pay for access even though he doesn't need the electricity. So they're just changing the rules on him constantly so that he gets screwed no matter what he does. Superannuation is a honeypot.
Yep.
It is a honeypot that was fabricated by the government, and I'm really grumpy at it wasn't actually John Howard. John Howard expanded it, but it was
Keating.
actually, I think it was Keating. It was Paul Keating started it, and then John Howard massively expanded it, and it's been expanded ever since. Now, here's the thing. Our governments are all broke, right? There are different degrees of broke, but they are all in a bad way. Balancing the budget is so politically unpopular. It is just about untenable. To go out there as a politician and say, listen, guys, we're going to balance the budget by slashing spending and bringing everything back into some semblance of sanity, you're not going to get elected, all right? No. So unfortunately, they're going to be looking at things like bail-ins where, forget taxing superannuation balances above 3 million. It might be a case of confiscating sooner or later. They're going to be looking at bail-ins for bank balances, same as what they did in Italy, same as what they've done in Greece. But also, I want you to have a look at some of the language here. I'm going to do a video on this article actually, or on the press conference from Jacinta Allen, because some of this is really disgusting and really insidious. So experts are worried what could happen to Australia's superannuation if Jacinta Allen is successful in getting major funds to invest in Labor's major projects. Understand the whole reason why the government is meant to be involved in major projects is because they're not commercially viable. We can't leave it to the private sector. They wouldn't do it because it's not a profit-making thing. Oh, but we're going to get your superannuation to fund a non-profit making project, right? This is going to go well, okay, as you can imagine. But I want to skip through. I don't want to drone on for too long, and I will do a video on this. But I want to, okay, this paragraph here, this activated my almonds. This is Jacinta Allen, the Premier of Victoria speaking. I think we do as a nation need to do more to unlock that productive capacity that sits in superannuation funds to return it back into these sectors she's referring to, infrastructure. He has the hide to make reference to the productive capacity that is locked up in superannuation funds. Now, she's actually correct. And one of the reasons why I believe superannuation is actually morally wrong, I believe it is a moral evil, is because you are making people work, be productive. You are taking from they could have earned more if they'd have received that pay, or the business could have been more profitable if they didn't have to lock that money away. We are taking a chunk of money, what is it, 12% or so of people's salary right now, And we are locking it away with a whole bunch of rules that make it less productive, and certainly less productive for the individual that did the work. So we're saying to them, listen, we're looking after your retirement, but they could be losing their house today. They could
Yeah.
be struggling to save a deposit. They could be in need of money for medical care. Now, they have invented a few exceptions along the way. There are a few reasons why you can access it. But again, we're talking layers of bureaucracy and all kinds of nonsense. And one of the traps with this is we never see what doesn't happen. We never see all the businesses that never got started because people couldn't get themselves into a financially secure enough position to take the
Yeah.
risk. We never see the risks people would have taken, the things they would have innovated, what they would have created. All that's gone, and we never miss it because it was never there for us to see. What we see is this gigantic honeypot filled with money that is, Jacinta Allen, to be fair to her, it is unproductive money, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
It's being smashed into a stock market that doesn't need it. This is one of the reasons why John Howard got to pretend that he presided over this wonderful economic growth, was because he took billions upon billions of dollars every year and he forced it into a stock market that didn't need it, whether people wanted to put it there or not. He created a bubble, and that bubble continues to this day. So that idea of this is unproductive money, we should do something more productive with it, I actually agree with that idea. But the idea that she's going to say, this is your unproductive money that we took out of your productive use, but now you're going to let me take it and decide where it goes. I'm deep into fuck you territory, right? That is so disgusting to me.
What's outrageous is that we don't have that same proclivity to be able to access our own supers if we want to buy a house. I know there was discussion around it, but right now we're in a cost of living crisis where people can't even access their own accrued funds. It's yours. It's in your super, but you can't touch it because the government wants it there, but they'll touch it. You know, like, when did we vote on that? When did we as Australians in this so-called democracy ever vote for the government dipping into our supers? Of course, that'll never go to a vote because no one will vote for it. You know, we were being told for like the last 30 years to top up your super. You know, the government would match your money. So the more you put into super, the better. But now, just like, so, you know, I first started my super fund, it would have been 2001. I was 14, right? And I got my first job at Macca's. And that was back when your workplace decided the super fund. You didn't get to choose. So for me, it was Host Plus, which, you know, lucky for me, it's been one of the best performing super funds. But anyway, and then I had other jobs and you had like 4 other different supers. And then they tidied that all up and they said that you could determine which super you wanted when you go to a new job. And so my entire adult life as an employee or as a worker, I have been told to put money into super. Now, all of a sudden, that tone has shifted to, hey, we're going to tax you if you have over 3 million. Don't worry, because you don't currently have that. But definitely by the time that you're 50 or 60 and you do have 3 million because of, firstly, inflation, and secondly, you've accrued, you know, the interest, which is the whole point of having super, we'll tax you then. So don't worry, for right now, you're all good. So vote for us because we're going to tax the rich, which means that in 20 years, when you become that rich because our dollar has devalued so much, we'll come for you too. That's exactly how this works. You know, you're voting for your own eyes.
Chrissy Harris here is spot on. She's kind of the face of this reality. I'm a single mum that works 6 days a week. I would rather use that money to buy an investment property. Yes. And for those of you that have a problem with investment properties, to pay off your own home faster or to do whatever else, right? This is your money that you earned that has been taken out of circulation and locked away. And this is, I mean, again, talk about people who just go wherever the government's shoving money. The unions read this. They read this perfectly. They all jumped in. They started these union super funds where people pay their fees and then they feed those, they funnel those fees back into the Labor Party. They've literally just created a money go around. Labor Party mandates that money has to get locked away. Unions take control of the locked away money, charge fees to then fund the Labor Party. Like this is a money laundering scheme, which is the theme of the episode. This is a money laundering scheme writ large. But again, corruption in Australia happens in plain sight. It's not brown paper bags and dark alleyways. It's contracts and public projects and superannuation funds. Yeah.
And further to this, I'm going to just jump across to a quick anecdote because I think it ties into all this. And you know, we've been talking about that general apathy of the Australian public. At the moment, we're in the middle of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the super sales, right? And as I do, I'm observing, I'm watching, and you know, I had a small business, and my business it closed just as those Black Friday sales were really becoming a thing. You know, people were waiting annually to do it. Now, For those who don't know, I'm just going to bore you for a really quick, a quick couple of minutes and just explain this to you. That when you have enough capital to produce in such volume, you can afford to take a hit on a few people buying things at an outrageous discount. That's how Coles and Woolies do it, right? They'll take something. Let's say I'm going to use a really random example of a FMCG. Let's say Colgate toothpaste. Colgate sells their toothpaste at $5. Coles and Woolies comes over to them and strong arms them and says, "You're going to make a white label toothpaste for us, and we're going to sell it for $2.50, so half the price."
That's right.
And so your consumer goes into Coles and Woolies and goes, "I could buy the $5 Colgate toothpaste, or I could buy the Coles toothpaste that's $2.50." Exactly the same, made by the exact same people, but different branding. So people go and buy that. So that's how the supermarkets exploit those. But what Colgate gets back in return is they get the shelf, right? They get that whole shelf. So Colgate is still making money because Coles and Woolies are still placing big orders. Now, that's at that scale. Bring that down to a small business, turnover $1 to $5 million. They're bringing in units in the thousand. They don't have that kind of buying power. They're not going offshore and producing things in the tens of millions. They're producing things in the hundreds of thousands. And then all of a sudden, you've got, all of the big chains slashing their prices. Myer, David Jones, Kmart, JB Hi-Fi, everything's 40, 50% off. And then what happens is you set a consumer expectation over the last decade that November, everything should be bargain basement prices. So what's happened? That has taught the big businesses, the really big businesses, that they can now produce product lines that go on sale specifically to cater to Black Friday. And that means the value of that product is less because the quality is less. But they have enough buying power and money to go offshore and do that. The small business owner doesn't. So what the expectation is for the consumer now is that everyone should be going on sale. And if you don't, I won't spend my money with you. I'll go over there. The small business owner, to stay competitive, has to do Black Friday. They are bullied into it. So what do? They shade their margins. And those margins are the difference whether they can pay their kids' school education, whether they can buy a new car, whether they can also organize the next order and go and produce the next run of stuff. So what you have is this expectation in the consumer or your general punter that the businesses are all rich people and they're all evil and they're all taking the profits for themselves and I should be able to get what I want for free. And this is what happens. So now there is a huge discussion in the small and SME business world of chargebacks, right? So do you guys know what a chargeback is? This is when a customer buys something online and then either through Shopify or PayPal disputes that charge, even though they've received the product, to say, "Hey, I didn't do this. This is fraud." And so what happens with Shopify and PayPal, because remember, these are American companies, they immediately refund the customer and the business cops the cost. So not only did the business lose the goods, they've also had to pay the customer for the goods. And so now you have this like renaissance of socialism. All of these people who are really skeptical of business owners, who have this really sour taste in their mouth because of the cost of living crisis, which, by the way, is a government-made crisis. And you have an army of consumers who do not see value in having small to medium enterprise businesses in this country. So what happens? They're all falling. They're all falling over. Every single one of them is going, "This is too hard. I don't want to do this anymore." Black Friday has basically squashed small business to a point where you can't be competitive. And so what happens? All of that market share now gets concentrated into the big businesses. And guess what? They have even more power, more monopoly. And people wonder why Coles and Woolies are everywhere. This is how the consumer expects that things will be landed in their lap at a price that they deem, sufficient. Why would I pay $50 for that? I can get it over there, knowing full well that it's terrible quality, but they don't care. The consumer only cares about the price.
I'm going to disagree with a bunch of what you just said.
Okay.
In principle, you're not wrong, but I think you've got a number of things asked about. So firstly, this process of businesses tending to get larger and larger and squeezing out the smaller ones, that is the process of the maturing of any industry, the maturing of any market. Because what happens as something becomes commoditized, the margins get smaller. It becomes more and more of a volume game. Now, what that actually means is that people are able to get more for less money. The reason why small people can't compete is because the big guys are supplying stuff at prices that are just not profitable for a smaller operator. Well, that means that people can buy stuff at prices that are completely unrealistic from anyone but a massive conglomerate. This is kind of why it works. But also, you got to understand that most of these large businesses are not in the business that you think they're in. So to take the supermarkets, for example, they're in the real estate business,
Yeah.
and they're in
Same
the
with
business of, well, but they're in the business, but specifically, hear what I'm saying here. They're in the business of taking a big warehouse that is worth $1,000 per square meter in rent every year, whatever it is, I don't know what it is, and then making it $1,000, a month for a square meter of shelf space. But there's 5 shelves now, so they've got 5 square meters of space per square meter of floor, and now they're able to sell the crap out of that. They're actually in the business of selling shelf real estate. That's actually what their business is. It so happens that it's fruit and vegetables and meat and groceries and Weet-Bix and I don't know, whatever stuff. That's what they choose to sell. That's who they choose to sell their shelf to. But the actual business of Coles and even IGA to a lesser degree is actually the business of shelf space. The difference between the small operators and the big operators in that game is the small operators are trying to sell their products. The big operators are trying to sell their shelves. And that's actually why the big operators have the advantage that they have. And that's a pretty inherent thing. Like that's a very different business model. I know you walk and you go, oh, well, there's potato and there's carrots, and there's potatoes and there's carrots over here as well. They must be in the same business. They're not. These are entirely different companies doing entirely different things. But let me also say, the next step in the evolution of every single business, as it becomes commoditized and margins get crunched, you reach the point where new entries become impossible because the capital cost is no longer justifiable. It's justifiable for the people that already spent the money to keep operating because the margins are still profitable barely. But it makes no sense for someone to make the capital investment, right? And that's when you know that the Kodak moment is about to happen. Once an industry reaches that point in time, the established players sit there and go, right, we've got it made. There's no threat. We're cool. They celebrate, and then an innovator comes in and disrupts in some major way. In the case of Kodak, it was the digital camera, and they didn't pivot because they had all this infrastructure in film. They had all the manufacturing, all the processing. They had all the reputation and the brand. They sat there and moments before they got destroyed, they were sitting there going, no one can touch us. No new entrants are possible because it's such a commoditized industry now. The margins are so tight, no one else is going to be willing to spend the money. Then they didn't get taken out by someone coming in with a better way to do film. They got taken out by someone who was playing a different game. Now,
well, the same thing happened to Blockbuster and Netflix, same thing.
100%. And so where I see opportunity is actually in these commoditized markets, not by coming in and going head to head. That's a fool's game because they've got the capital investment or they've got all those advantages. That's true. But if you're the person that sits there and goes, no, hang on, I can see a way to be in an entirely different line of work, an entirely different business. Costco, right? They went into the membership club business, right? So you walk in there, go, a big box of TVs, blah, blah, blah. This is just another Harvey Norman. No, it's not. They're in an entirely different business, an entirely different business model.
I see what you're saying, but you're still talking about businesses with significant capital. Like, I understand it from that point of view. But what I'm saying is, like, a lot of these small businesses who are being forced to compete with Black Friday are literally mum and pop shops, right? Like they're no longer your little boutique in your strip shop down in your local suburb. They're online now because that's where everyone's eyeballs are. So I'll give you an example. There was a I can't remember the name of the store. I've just seen it pop up on my socials a few times, and it was a lady who has an online boutique, and she sells like higher end stuff. So not designer, but like Aussie designer stuff, right? So clothing around the $300 to $600 mark. And she'd had a couple of chargebacks and she'd gone pretty viral for the first video about it. And at the last video of hers I watched, she got another one. And it was almost $900 worth of stock that this person had ordered, received, and then done the chargeback. And so she added up over, I think it was the course of maybe 2 months, almost $2,500 of chargebacks. Now, of course, these are a handful of people. Not everyone is that people. But for her, the $2,500 on her bottom line is so significant. She can't weather that. And the reason I said what I said is because we are actually creating people who don't want to challenge the system. It's one thing for the corporate world to be like that. I've known that about Coles and Woolies for years, particularly if they're white labels. what I'm
Sure.
worried about, what I'm looking at, is what we're doing to the average person, the population who now have these expectations. So I've brought this up before on the podcast. There are now people who agree it is not only the right thing to do, that you are encouraging it, that you should steal from Coles and Woolies. Like, you can go see this. It's your purple pingers types. And there was an
Purple
article
Finger stuff. Yeah.
I think I showed it on the podcast. It was an article on the ABC talking about how Victoria is the shoplifting capital for the supermarkets. And I think it was over 70%. I may have got that figure wrong, but I think it was around 70% of all thefts from Coles and Woolies come from Victoria. Now, why is that? It's not because Victorians are poorer. I mean, you could argue that point. It is because of a poisonous, parasitic ideology that has corrupted most people in this state. And that is the pervasive renaissance of fucking socialism. Why? Because you've got your Jacinta Allens, your Anthony Albanese's, and they play their part too, the Greens, your socialists, your purple pingers, who are telling everyone it's the big corporates, it's all the businesses. They're the evil ones. Meanwhile, we just saw the government waste $96 million on a fucking website. And no one is outraged about that. I mean, you and I are outraged, but your average they don't care.
Let me separate a few things. So I responded to this issue of the Black Friday sales, the big guys squeezing the little guys. That's a separate issue to the chargebacks. So I've had that happen a few times with my merch, people trying to charge back and succeeding on charging back. And I haven't previously disputed them, but I've now got a team. I was flying solo. I didn't have the headspace at the time. I've now got a team, and so everything will be disputed from now on. But all I did was I put people onto a blacklist. So there are people who can never buy from me again. And that's it's just that simple. It's like, no, you got the stuff, and then you said you wanted your money back. Well, that's nice. You're never going to buy from me again. You'll never do business with me again. Now, I understand that.
Sorry, I was going to say, you know what, I would argue for that. And I know it's not the right thing to do. And I know we have doxing laws in this country, but I say this, I feel like every episode, shame. These people should be humiliated. And I don't care what anyone says regarding like, oh, online privacy, you've got a bigger audience, and that's not fair. If you're going to outwardly steal from a small business owner, and I have that information, I should be able to embarrass the fuck out of you. Hey, Sally from Tasmania, thank you so much for charging back $950 of my small business. Here's the photo from Australia Post showing my parcel on your doorstep, yet you decided that you wanted to be refunded that money as well. So not only do you get the clothes, you get the money back. Well, Sally, this is your moment to shine. Like, I think that's well and more than acceptable. I know that might be breaking rules, but I think you have to bring back the stocks.
Everybody just be careful. If the next person to do a chargeback stunt on me, just know that Carly's on my team now, and so she might just get her way. But I want to go to, so there was the issue of the sales as well, and Black Friday, sales and all that stuff. Listen, sales are only, it's a little bit like getting canceled. People say, oh yeah, I'm afraid of getting canceled. You can only be canceled if you agree. You can only be forced into sales if you have the kind of brand that can be forced into sales. So, for example, my stuff goes on special when I decide it goes on special. And I've put things onto like 10% specials before. I'm never doing a 40% off, 50% off. That's never going to happen. The Topher products are going to be at best 10% off. That's as good as you're going to get with the Topher stuff. I don't care about Cyber Monday. I don't care about Black Friday. I'll do a bit of a Christmas thing. We might, we'll do a little bit of something with the new merch that's coming out in December. We'll do a bit of something there. But my brand does not go on discount. Yeah.
Can we address this quickly? That this is dumb. Can't afford chargebacks. Change your method of payment. To what?
Yeah.
Stripe allow chargebacks. PayPal allow chargebacks.
Every credit card company will shoot first and ask questions later.
Is what shits me.
Yeah.
Get your head out of the cloud, bro. Come on. This is so frustrating to me.
If we turned off all digital payments and said you can only pay us by cash, then we'd be able to restrict chargebacks. That's about the only option.
It's still well and good to make comments like that, but you've got people who are genuinely struggling out there, people who are actually productive, people who have taken.
He's actually gone for it. He's actually gone for it. He said cash. Yeah, great.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll
great.
I'll only sell to people that can come to my physical premises and buy from me as a small business owner. Yeah, cool, great.
And I'll put it in an envelope and I'll send it across the country and it'll get there, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Anyway.
Yes, we have some people who really think that's actually going to work. Okay, that's amazing. All right, moving on.
Lol.
before I say what I
Hang on,
really want to say.
just on that, that's really cute. Set up in Burke Street Mall. Are you aware of how expensive it is to set up in a mall like that? Do you guys have any idea how expensive
All right,
it is
stop.
to own a store at Chadstone?
We're
Oh,
we're rousing on our own audience here, Carly. We need to just take a chill pill. Take a chill pill.
These are the conversations that we need to have. And yeah, I'm frustrated because, you know, if we don't empower people to be able to ask these questions and have these conversations, what hope do we have of them holding the government accountable? You know, because like, and just to use, to really drive my point home, those kind of comments are the people who vote. Oh, it's not that bad. She'll be right. It's okay. Like, these are the people that choose to vote in the Labor Party as well. Like, I'm not saying you guys in the comments, but do you know what I mean? I'm like, if we can't encourage people to have these kind of conversations where we pull things apart and dissect things and have this kind of dialogue, how the hell are we going to get this country back on track?
Yeah. So Cruel Intentions, cash and goats. I will only trade in goats when I'm buying a wife.
I'll accept camels.
That's look, dowries only. That's the only time I go to livestock. Okay. I'm not a farmer.
I was told I was worth 6 camels in Egypt, just so you know. 6 camels.
Wow. I was offered 1 and it wanted to do mean things to me. So moving right along. Here we Phonic Photon said I had a shop on Chapel Street in Paran. Not cheap. No, they're not. It's it's
I just paid $6 grand to have a shop on Chapel Street for 6 days. Do you know what I mean?
So anyway. I need to wind up in about 9 minutes because we haven't eaten yet and my wife's going to get hangry and that's not going to go well. So we've got about 9 minutes left.
Live show. So chaotic.
Are there any other topics you want to hit before we wind up?
Do you want to have some fun? And I don't know if you'll find this fun because I do have, we'll say this for Wednesday where we can go more in depth, but the Victorian Auditor General has slammed the Allen government's financial mismanagement, warning short-term fixes are failing as the gross debt rockets to $236 billion.
It'd be.
I don't know if I've got the stomach to argue that right now. Let's go across to Pauline. Do you want to talk about Pauline?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about Pauline. Okay. All right. So we're going to party like it's 1996 because Pauline Hanson and One Nation have the kind of support that they had back in 1996. But this time it's different. This time people are actually going, no, hang on, she was right all along. Like very rarely in politics do you see a minor party ever become a major party. Very rarely do you see one almost make it and then fade and then come back. Pretty much it's a one-time deal. You've got one shot, right? And it might, that shot will happen over the period of years. But if you get some enthusiasm and then it fades and it's gone, you're not coming back from that. Pauline Hanson is defying the odds in a really, really serious way. Now, I love the fact that she's done this again. This is the second time she just has this in her wardrobe, presumably. This is the second time she's worn this in Parliament.
The last time I think she wore a blue one, I think, last time. I could be wrong, but
okay, well, there you go. So she's upset because she put forward a bill to ban the burqa. Now, this is something that's happening in various countries around the world. As a libertarian, I don't actually agree with it. I do think the burqa should you should be required to show your face in certain circumstances, but by and large, burqa ban, I'm not for it. However, she's basically said, well, if you're not going to agree with me that it's wrong, then I'm just going to wear it into Parliament. Now, the point that she makes is that there are many, many sects of Islam that reject the idea that this is a religious garb, right? So there are actually Muslim countries in the world that have banned the burqa and the niqab and all of that, right? And so she's coming out here, and the point that she's trying to make is that this is not about religious freedom and religious discrimination and these sorts of things. And this is a cultural thing, not a religious one. And there are many Muslim countries that don't actually allow women to be clothed like this, and we do know that it is a tool of oppression, etc. That's actually true. That's people get up in arms about oppression, this and oppression that. Well, dressing women to look like letterboxes, so that they're completely dehumanized to the point that you can't even tell who's who. I'm sorry, that's a form of oppression, absolutely. So I love the fact that she's done this. Now, are you aware they switched the way the cameras work in the live stream so that you couldn't even see her side of the Senate when she was in there with the burqa on? What you had was the same side, the same shot of the other side duplicated twice, so that people couldn't even see in the live stream her wearing a burqa. That's how incredibly, that's their reaction to this. It's insane.
I've got some reactions from our favorite Green senators. So let me just cue this one right up for us, because there's nothing I love more than some screeching feminists. Where are we? And let me just refresh that and make that bigger. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Technology is just not cooperating with us today.
We've not been having a good day technology wise.
We haven't. So now that I've got it here, there we go.
Racist and Islamophobic, and so are you.
She is disrespecting a faith. She is disrespecting the Muslims out
Senator
there, Muslim
Faruqi.
Australians. It's absolutely unconstitutional. This needs to be
Unconstitutional?
immediately before we proceed. It's disgraceful.
Senator Payman,
it is a
resume
shame.
your seat.
President, a dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate. This is a racist senator displaying blatant racism and Islamophobia, President, and you someone should pull her up on that.
Senator Faruqi.
It is you in the chair.
You should be pulling her up on that.
Clearly, what has happened today is not a genuine demonstration of faith. In fact, it is the middle finger to people of faith. It is extremely racist and unsafe.
We do have many Australians in this country who are adherents of the Islamic faith. And the great majority are law-abiding Australians, good Australians, Senator Hanson, and it is absolutely consistent.
Why was it all screeching women?
So let me pull a couple of things out of here because this is fun. Firstly, they're hopefully going to get in trouble for with the large section of the Muslim community that rejects the hijab, etc., as being religious garb. So that'll be fun. But also, can we just notice this ties in with the whole cancelling people is pointless thing. Like, stop trying to cancel people. If she'd walked in and sat down, and everyone had just gone, Pauline's being weird again, and then got on with business, and not a single person had said a damn thing. Right? Do you see how that would have completely muted her?
It's the Streisand effect.
They reacted, which is what has empowered her. Now this is the headlines. We're talking about it. It's all over the news. It's exactly what she wanted. Now, I happen to agree with what she wanted in this particular case. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that's happened, but I'm saying if you, like, I used to watch this happen when I was a teenager in the church. I grew up in a really super conservative religious family. And yeah, we would get caught up in the outrages about, oh, this band is coming and they, Ozzy Osbourne's coming and he ate a bat and he worships Satan and blah, blah, blah. And we would be out there amplifying the fact that he's coming and touring in Australia. Right now, I'm not too sure that anyone went and bought a ticket because I told them about it. But as a corporate, as a group, these conservative churches buying into the satanic panic era of the late 80s and early 90s, we were just free advertising for these guys. And it's exactly the same in these sorts of situations here. So it's hilarious to me that they just, whatever the business of the Senate was that day, got completely derailed. Pauline Hanson set the agenda and she got exactly what it was that she set out to get. And fair play to her.
Oh, look, I agree. And I'm going to disagree with you. I think the burqa should be banned. I don't think there is any place in a Western democracy where you should be wearing a face covering like that, particularly given it comes from oppressive regimes. And if we're going to allow the burqa, we're basically saying that we're okay with that. So You know, I'm all for freedom of expression with religion. That's fine. But there is no reason for you in a Western country like Australia to walk around with that on your face. I'm sorry. I will not stand for that. They've banned it in France. They've banned it in 22 countries. 11, what was the stat before? 11 of them were Muslim countries.
I'm not sure if it was
is
11, but certainly some.
Why? What I want to know is why should they be allowed to wear that here? We know what goes on in these fundamentalist Islam societies. We know how oppressed women are. If we are a free, allegedly free, democratic nation, and we are going to stand by, allow people who immigrate here to uphold oppressive sentiments from their own home country, then what the fuck are we standing for? I'm sorry. I'll die on that hill. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. That's my opinion. But what I will say about this is the best possible recruitment strategy for the NSN. This has just made more and more people go, you know what? I'm going to go full white nationalist now.
Yeah, going to go all the way. If I'm not allowed to have an opinion that differs from the mainstream, and you're going to call me a Nazi when I do, then I might as well just go all the way across.
Nazi, yeah. And I've said this the whole year on this podcast. If you want to start a race war, this is a great way to do it. Saying that, you know, you can't. Maureen what's her name? Faruqi got up last week calling us all you white people.
Yeah, you white people. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Stain in the Australian Parliament, and then you've got her wearing a keffiyeh, and you've got them walking in with a dead fish. They're allowed to do those stunts. They don't get told off. You get Justina Price walking in with a freaking Australian flag into the Australian Parliament.
You can't do that.
And she gets forced to remove it. What kind of kangaroo freaking country is this? This is insane.
Honestly, she should be glad she wasn't executed. That is an outrage. Wearing an Australian flag into the Australian Parliament. I mean, seriously.
And look, this is my thing. For the record, just so no one clips this, I condemn the NSN, but I will be fucking damned if someone tells me I cannot be proud of the fact that I'm Australian and celebrate Australia Day and wear an Australian flag if I choose to. Now, I'm a bit more tasteful. I don't really wear like Australiana clothes like that. But I am sick of having this shit shoved down our throat to feel guilty in perpetuity for shit that happened hundreds of years ago. That my ancestors weren't here. My ancestors were over in fucking Iceland and Scandinavia. Why do I have to wear this guilt? Do you know what I mean? But anyway, my point is regarding the NSN. The more you have your Faruqis, your Paymans, and your Penny Wongs coming out and saying that you cannot have any discussion whatsoever about fundamentalist Islam, the more people are going to go, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go do the NSN now because you are not listening to me. We're not allowed to be in the discussion. You won't even let us table the discussion. They wouldn't even, Pauline wasn't even allowed to table her ban the burqa bill. They wouldn't allow it. So people see that and go, right, okay, we'll do it our way. And it's no different to what's happening with the youth crime. You know, like I'll talk about this on Wednesday, but I've got some information about what's happening with vigilantes. And, you know, the government's like, oh, we don't want that. I'm like, well, you should have taken care of it the first time. You know, you can't be angry that people take it into their own hands.
All right, I got to go. I got to have dinner before the restaurant closes. So
Topher doesn't want to hear me rant anymore.
No, I'm done. I'm out. No wonder. I mean, no wonder the Roadcaster killed itself. I completely
Should we do the super
understand.
chats before we go?
We've been going through them. I've been putting them up.
Oh, have you? Okay, good. As long as we said thank you to everyone who super chatted. Guys, what do you think about the burqa? Are you pro or against it? I don't know.
They're overwhelmingly against in the comments. Yeah, overwhelmingly against. But I'm not going to dive into that chat. I'm gonna sign out. You're welcome to stay, Carly. You can do like an ask me anything in the comments. You can stay till 2 a.m, have lots of fun. But I need to peace out of here. I'm hungry. I'm hangry, and the restaurant closes soon.
You go and I'll do the housekeeping.
All right, I'm out of here. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Bye.
Good luck with the getting your Roadcaster working by Wednesday. Good luck.
That's G's problem.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I have to kick you out. All right, bye. All right, guys. Thanks for another spicy show. I know that Topher and I differ on a couple of things, particularly immigration and the fundamentalist Islam stuff. But I'm curious because I can't read the comments as things are live. So let me know what you guys think. I'm curious. What are there? 786 of you on the live right now. What are your sentiments around the burqa? I'm just reading your comments. Apologies. I can't do two things at once. It's a good thing you disagree on matters. Okay. Good. Now that Topher's gone, we can all agree these ban the burqa. Okay. So people are saying ban the burqa. Look, I'll say this. You know, I was going to say this when Topher was here, but I've traveled to some of these countries. I've never been to Iran, and I've certainly never been to Afghanistan, but I've been into some pretty dicey places in the Middle East. And I have seen with my own eyes how oppressed these women are. And I've heard some pretty heinous stories. And, you know, the idea that someone can come into Australia and continue on that sort of oppressive regime here in our country, I think is sick. You know, if we care, like, let me pull this thread together. If we care deeply about women's rights and we advocate for how we need reform, particularly in regards to domestic violence, that we also are going to allow religious extremists to wear those oppressive garbs. I'm sorry, I just don't think those two can sit side by side. You know, if we care about women's rights in this country, which allegedly we do, and we care about you know, making sure that women aren't abused at the hands of men, how can we also stand for someone wearing a burqa, knowing how oppressed women are who are wearing that? You know, that's my stance. Happy to be wrong. That's my opinion. But yeah, spicy show. I think Topher disagreed with me on lots of things today, but I'm just going to read your comments, guys. If you've got anything that you want me to address, let me know in the comments. I'll bring it up. They don't want to assimilate. Well, no, they don't. There's a reason this is happening across all Western countries. This is not an accident. This is very deliberate, you know. Reading comments. Okay. So far, I haven't seen anyone disagree. Not to say that you don't, but I haven't seen a comment yet. Just reading. Okay, so when it comes to these discussions, I know Topher and I like butt heads at times, and I think that's healthy. I think that's really important. Topher is very ideologically balanced. I'm a little bit more hot-headed, evidently. And I think that if you can't engage in these discussions where you bring across your viewpoints and you argue with people and try and find some commonality, then what's the point? I genuinely worry for Australia where we're censoring people who have opposing opinions. And I think it's going to get worse. So this Pauline stunt, even though it was like kind of comical and she wanted that, I actually think this is part of a bigger conversation this country needs to have. That why is it always one-sided? Why is it always that dissent is punished when you're on the right side of things, but on the left, you can act like absolute banshees. You can say terrible things. You can make racist assertions. You can hold cities to hostage with your protests, and we don't get to say anything. You know, I think it's outrageous. So, Tim, you disagree that we shouldn't ban the burqa? That's fine. You're most welcome to disagree. Can you tell me why, just so I can read it? Mosques should be banned in the Western world. I don't know about banning mosques. I'm fine for you to have a place of worship. I think as a woman, we see the danger a bit more. Yeah, I think that's true too. The double standards is outrageous. Well, you know, as they say, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. Anyway, that being said, guys, maybe I'll wrap it up. I don't know if you guys want to hear me just do a monologue for like the next half an hour. I certainly wouldn't. So I might say goodbye. A bit of housekeeping though. If you haven't yet, please join the Discord. You can join as a general member and you can get in the chat and you can have these conversations. That's kind of the whole point of the Oddcast. We want you guys to, we want to encourage you guys to talk amongst each other and nut these things out. It's not about being right. It's not about trying to shut people down. It's just having the conversation. So that's in the Discord. The link will be in the description box. Once this live has ended, I'll update it for you guys. If you would like to be an OG Oddie, that's that button there, or QR code. If you scan that, that'll take you to Ko-fi. If you sign up as a member, you get access to the members' chat rooms, and they're having a great time in there. There's all sorts of chats. You guys can share your memes. You can talk Oz politics. You can talk geopolitics, whatever you like. So that's all available there through Ko-fi. And of course, I bet a grift for Topher. So if you want any of his merch, good people break bad laws. And that'll be it. I think I should cap it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you guys would do us a favor, please share the show. Encourage people to come and join the Oddcast. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye, guys.